Welcome to Tony at 12. I'm Tony LeBlanc, and today I'm in conversation with Lizzy Conder, who is a fully qualified cricket umpire. And you might see in the background our good friend, the Professor. We're going to discuss Lizzy's cricketing experiences, and I think Richard is going to chip in on the odd occasion with some thoughts from the past. So good to see you, Lizzy. Thank you very much for sparing me some time.
Very nice to meet you, Tony. I've been listening to some of the prof and your chats. It's been lovely to hear them.
That's great news. Now, the great thing about cricket is it goes back a long, long way. I think one of the earliest recorded matches tended to feature a little village in Hampshire called Hambledon. And we go back to 1772. The prof was there. And apparently the original Hambledon team took on all of England and won 23 out of 39 matches. So that's quite something. Yeah. But there you go.
And the first women's game was also a Hambledon fixture, and it was Hambledon against Bramley near Guildford in Surrey in 26th of July, about a similar time frame in the 18th century.
Yeah, there you go.
Women's cricket has been there almost since the beginning.
Now, as far as you're concerned, what was the attraction to cricket?
I think I probably first heard Test Match Special when I was in my mother's tummy.
Yep.
During that very hot summer of 1976. No doubt my father can remember which cricket matches were being played at that point.
West Indies versus Tony Gregg's side.
Oh, that was when Greggy was going to make them grovel and ended up grovelling himself.
Yeah, he lost every single match.
And it was as early as that, Lizzy, before you actually were born.
Indeed. I mean, Test Match Special has been the soundtrack to my life. And I think I had my first cricket jumper when I was about 3 or 4, and my first cricket bat was in my hand at about 4 or 5 as well. We come from a family of cricket lovers, and the very earliest cricket memories are playing with my cousins, and the particular joy of getting out my male cousins, who often would then go on strike because they couldn't possibly be out. Bold Lizzy caught Vicky.
Oh dear.
And Daddy often had to be the umpire.
Yeah.
So they did a WG Grace on you, or tried to.
Often.
Yeah, frequently. Now, of course, cricket's one of the few sports where absolutely every ball is recorded in the scorebook. And I think that makes it unique. And I don't think there are any other sports that I can think of where you could actually look at a score sheet and possibly follow the match itself.
I think I'd agree. I'm not sure the same thing happens in baseball, which is about the only equivalent sport in terms of statistics that are kept. But yes, I started scoring at age 14 for school. I was the only girl in the year that wanted to play cricket. And at that time, I wasn't allowed to play in the competitive games. But my lovely schoolmaster, Mr. Norman Damrell, taught me how to score so that I would be there for every ball of every game that they played that season.
Now, tell me, what are the qualifications for being an umpire? It's not just a question of donning a white coat and going out into the middle, is it?
No, so the ECB Association of Cricket Officials runs courses every year. During the pandemic, we've been running them online. So there's a number of courses. The first one really focuses on teaching the laws of cricket, all 42 of them. So enough that you as an umpire can then go out and umpire. And particularly, we then go on through another 4 stages, at each point you're learning more and more about player management, umpire field craft, and also how to handle yourself in those bigger games. And most recently, I've been on the women's pathway for bringing more women into professional cricket. I'm not yet at the stage that I'll be appearing on the BBC this year, but I'm working towards it. And very much there, I get all of my matches that I'm umpired are observed. A number of my matches are now live streamed. And a lot of it is about how also do I appear as an umpire on screen? Do I look like I'm in control of the game? Do I look like I'm making the appropriate decisions? Are all of my signals so that you in the audience can know that whether I'm signaling a 4 or a 6? Are they very clear? So it's all around that now at that level to make sure that you are prepared to be able to make a decision under pressure, and the pressure will increase as you go up and under the spotlight of the TV camera and the decision review system.
Are you up to first class yet?
I'm not up to first class yet. No,
No.
I'm umpire in the women's cricket, which is first class would be the equivalent. It's now called the regional cricket. So we have the Rachel Hayhoe Flint Trophy and the Charlotte Edwards Cup. I've umpired the warm-up games for those trophies, and I've also now been umpiring the academy sides for those regional teams.
So what would you have to do to get it? Yeah, what would you have to do to get up to first class then? More examinations or an acceptance?
No, I think it's more observations and more proving that I am making the right decisions when I'm put under pressure. So for me, it's in keeping doing more umpiring at high levels of cricket, and continuing to improve my field craft and my umpiring and my decision making. So those are the things that I'm getting observed on every time I go out to umpire.
Richard will remember this. I mean, traditionally in the past, it used to be people that had retired from the first class game that more or less went straight into umpiring, didn't they?
Yeah, there's still quite a few, Tony. I mean, Dickie Bird was one of them because he played Jeff Boycott and others in the 50s and 60s. But
David Lloyd, Lancashire.
Yeah, David Lloyd was at Bumble. Yeah, was a good example. And there are some now.
Yeah, so Sue Redfern, who's the woman who England's woman at the moment who's umpiring internationally, and she was umpired. She was fourth umpire for one of the men's one-day internationals this year, the first woman to do that in this country. She used to play for England, and there are a number of, particularly I think, county players who, when they retire, they often then get fast-tracked through the early stages. And a lot of it is that they're used to the pressure, they're used to kind of being on camera and working and knowing how the game works at that level.
So how many matches do you hope to do per season, Lizzy?
Well, having to manage it along the day job that takes
yes, absolutely.
Friday. I'm generally hoping to umpire 2 games a week if I can and the season starts in April and goes on till September. I definitely this year I was umpiring a warm-up game for the South East Stars, which is the women's regional team that covers Surrey and Kent. I did that on the 11th of April, and I definitely needed my woolly hat and thermals because we had to stop each innings because snow fell. And last season, Daddy was at my last game, and I think he was glad that he was inside. I was definitely again in my woolly hat.
You were feeling the chill.
I was feeling the chill.
And of course, these days the players can't hand you their stuff to hold, can they? Because of COVID.
I'm quite relieved not to have to pick up the sweaty cricket cap. And most umpires I know would be quite happy not to come back into umpiring accoutrements.
Now, when you're umpiring, you've got to not only see what's going on at the batsman's end, but you've got to watch the bowler for no balls, haven't you? Yes. So, it's head down, head up straight away, is it?
It's more about where your eyesight are. So your head is always still. You're looking down, so you position yourself so with your eyes are looking down, you can see the pop increase, and it's about really as the foot lands, eyes down, and then it's slowly moving up. So you make sure that you're seeing where the ball is pitching, and when particularly to make sure you know where it's going to impact for those LBW decisions.
Watching the test the other day, that would have been the second test. It was quite incredible the number of good umpiring decisions when they brought Hawkeye on. The chaps got it right virtually every time.
Yeah, we're very fortunate in England to have some really good umpires, and that's, I think, the benefit that's come out of COVID. One of the few ones is the ability to see those umpires umpiring England, because normally pre-COVID they would be umpiring any other country but England. They are really good. We've also through COVID set up a group called the Close Call, and where umpires like Goffey and Richard Kesselborough, who were there umpiring at the test, have come on to and talked to umpires at all different levels about their experiences so we can learn from them.
Hawkeye's been a good introduction, though, hasn't it, to the game?
Yeah, definitely.
It's not knocked out any dubious decisions.
No, and it's been really helpful, I think, for the decisions for the spin bowlers. I mean, Graham Swan has talked about the fact that with Hawkeye and DRS coming in, the number of decisions that he can now get, because actually you can make a better prediction, which there are times, particularly with spin, that it makes it more tricky for the human eye to just discuss it immediately.
The classic Shane Warne ball.
Yeah. Although saying, yeah, exactly. Nobody would have thought that magic Shane Warne bowl to Mike Gatting would have bowled Mike Gatting.
Went right round the back of him, didn't it?
Yeah.
Incredible.
I remember that.
And he wasn't a small object to go around.
Yeah, absolutely. What about sledging? You don't get that in the ladies' game. They're far too refined, presumably.
No, I mean, you get a little bit, but nothing like what you would definitely see in the men's game. It is still as competitive, but it's played with a really good spirit. What I really like is when you know when the team is doing well, they're really chirpy they're chirpy to themselves, so they're really on cheering on their own team, each teammate to do well, and that's one of the nice things about umpiring is you do see that. And particularly. I often umpire for the MCC, have a women's team, and they particularly want to make sure they're demonstrating the spirit of cricket, and seeing moments as well on the international scene, like with Freddie Flintoff in the 2005 Ashes. Those moments, I think, are the ones that make cricket stand out, when they really demonstrate that spirit of cricket, that it is about more than a game. It's about how we play and how we umpire.
Yeah, that's something we noticed last night, Tony, watching the playback of the semi-final for the women's 100. Was the amazing spirits, both within the team, but also between the teams. They were playing very competitively, but I didn't detect any sledging at all. And I thought that was really refreshing. I said to Sandy, it's nice watching this because I don't think spectators like the sledging.
It's a bit like the international team, isn't it? In terms of the fact that the 100 is a selection from various counties.
Yes,
as you find in Test cricket and one-day internationals.
Yeah, and with the 100, it's what's been nice for players is having that mix of internationals with the really up-and-coming domestic players. So players like Alice Capsey, who is just turned 17 during the tournament, shows she is a Surrey player, has come through their county age group academy, and plays for the South East Stars, the regional team, but she was picked for the 100 for the Oval Invincibles, and she's there playing with great internationals like Danny van Niekerk, Marianne Kapp, but also seeing on the really great Indians like Jemina Rodriguez, who didn't have a very good tour against England, but really shone in the 100, and and had the top score of 92, and that was only equaled in the last week by Liam Livingston in the last game of the group stages.
When you get then this sort of amalgamation of county players, I suppose I'm probably looking at perhaps slightly more at the men's game, the men's game than the women's game at this stage. Do we find that it's difficult to sort of look at them? What were they called? The Oval Invincibles?
Yeah, the Oval Invincibles.
Which consisted of what teams? From which counties?
They weren't particularly from counties. They came from all over. So you would have players from, yes, you had quite a few players from Surrey, but you also had players from Yorkshire and Worcester. It was a complete mix because it was franchise cricket, like it is in the Indian Premier League. Yeah. Had a draft. They could only have one England international in each team, but then they got to pick. So it was a real mix of people. Quite often you saw more of like a Surrey Kent feel definitely in the women's team, but again there were people there from Hampshire and other counties that weren't necessarily, and I don't think you have such a strong identity with the new franchises yet, but no. People but the kids didn't seem to mind. They still happily go and buy the shirt and cheer on, pick a team and cheer on a team.
Well, it's for the younger generation in many respects, isn't it? Old fuddy-duddies like me, are sort of still stuck with Test cricket, county cricket, and one-day internationals probably. But, if it's going to bring people along to watch, and if it's going to create a revenue stream, I guess that's got to be good, hasn't it?
I think it's going to be good as long as it doesn't, in the end, cause detriment to the red ball game. And I think there has been concern this year with the scheduling, and I think that has, as I said earlier, something that's got to be sorted out is making sure that we do schedule red ball county games for the men alongside, so that there is always that opportunity for those who need to be playing the longer format to get to be playing longer format games. Because at the end of the day, for men, but also for women, the longer format, the Test match really is the gold standard that they all want to play. And that's where people have got, we've got to make sure that we protect that and enable players to really shine when they get picked for England for a test.
But you need the 4-day county game, don't you, really, as part of the rehearsal, if you like, to get into the test side.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a difficult. Sorry.
We haven't really had a red ball game since the middle of July, and we don't get another red ball game till a couple, 2 more weeks' time. So I think that is a real something that needs to be worked on the fixture list.
Right. Obviously, you have a hectic business life, as we know, and somehow you're able to fix the umpiring into that and your other commitments, cricket commitments. How far do you actually have to go out of London in terms of your umpiring duties?
So the furthest I've been this year is Shrewsbury for a 3-day festival. Last week I was in Billericay, but particularly for the women's game, it is quite spread out because particularly at the higher levels, there are not as many, counties aren't close together. So quite often, so my team that I'm in, which is in the Southern League's Women's Championship, yesterday they were playing a game in Brighton and Hove. So that's sort of essentially the spread from Hampstead in the north to Brighton and Hove in the south is how and to Canterbury across to Ashford. It's quite a large range that you can be travelling on a weekend.
I'll just tell you a funny story, Tony. Last summer, Lizzy was due to umpire in Norwich, and we happened to be here, so we drove her. We happened to be here in the Midlands, so we drove her to Norwich. We're the only people who go to a cricket match to watch the umpire, which were fairly unique. But as it turned out, there weren't enough players, so Elizabeth was suddenly a player instead of the umpire, and they brought in standing umpires. So we did actually get to see her playing cricket. She looks far too young to be a veteran, but she was drafted in.
Took a fifer and got 100 not out.
Something like that.
I was at one point. I started off being a wicketkeeper.
Yeah.
And I haven't kept wicket since about 2013. And then I was asked to bowl. My replacement as umpire was a wonderful woman. And she's called Enid Bakewell. She's 80 and still playing.
Right.
She played for England and she was in the first won the World Cup the first time it was played with Rachel Hayhoe-Flint. And she was umpiring as I was coming up to bowl. She said, "How do you bowl, Lizzy?" I said, "Left arm over." So she announces it, "Left arm over, like Mitchell Starc." Maybe not quite so fast. And now I'm going to live with that. To be compared to Mitchell, my bowling, my very slow left arm bowling, to be compared to Mitchell Starc, that is going to be my
absolutely. Yeah. Now, you're a member of the Surrey committee, and that's quite an achievement, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a huge honour. So Surrey has over 13,000 members, and each year they elect 4 members to stand on the general committee, which helps run the Surrey County Cricket Club. And in 2019, I was very honoured to be elected onto the general committee, which is a absolutely wonderful experience, and I love being more involved in my club.
So that is a permanent appointment, is it? You
stand for 4 years,
yeah.
And you have to have a grace period off for 2 years, which is to make sure you kind of get people, lots of different faces on the general committee and different views being heard about county cricket, and then you're allowed to restand. So there have been people who have had more, but at the moment there's about 4 or 5 of us, and this is our first term on general committee.
And running a cricket team like Surrey, or teams I should say, because you've got the women's and you've obviously got second 11s and things like that. That's quite a task, isn't it, to deal with that? And the Oval is the largest cricket ground. It's larger than Lord's, isn't it?
We're about the similar size because Lord's has just expanded with two new stands. But no, it's a very large operation. Surrey is the strongest financially in the UK, and the one with the biggest number of members. There is a management board, and we're very fortunate in our directors of cricket. So we have Alex Stewart, who's the director of cricket for the men, and Ebony Rainford Brent, who's the director of cricket for women. And they both come and update the general committee on performance and get quizzed on performance. We also have a great chairman in Richard Thompson, and at the moment our new chief interim chief exec, Charlie Hodgson, who's doing a great job. And then we also have a president who at the moment is David Pakeman from Guildford. So there's a lot of people involved. And as well, so because of course the Oval, as well as being a cricket ground, is also quite a hospitality venue. So we have events running all the way through the winter as well. Exams. It was a COVID test site for a bit. So we've been doing lots of things, and it's important, a big financial operation all the way through all the year round.
And you've been rubbing shoulders with a previous Prime Minister, I believe.
Yes, so John Major is a past president of Surrey County Cricket Club, and he has very fond memories from being taken to the Oval as a child by his sister. And yeah, so I was very fortunate to be able to sit and watch cricket with him at Guildford recently in the Royal London Cup. He's an absolutely charming and very knowledgeable cricket person. Nice
little ground, Guildford.
Guildford's lovely, yeah. It's getting a little small for some of those big sixes that kind of clear the ground road, but it is a lovely ground, and I'm hopefully on Wednesday going to watch more women's cricket at Guildford.
Of course, I'm a Sussex man, so we have a bit of rivalry here. Not that we're anywhere near one another in the county tables, because I think we're right down the bottom and you're still up the top. But I'm also a member.
Hove is a lovely ground. I'm very fortunate to go and see one of the Super League finals at Hove. It was a lovely place to watch cricket.
We actually partly sponsored a day at Hove in 1980 to celebrate the first 10 years of our business. That was great fun. But what I was going to go on to say is that, in my view, probably the most beautiful cricket ground in England is at Arundel.
It is very pretty, and I was very fortunate to be able to umpire in Arundel in May this year. It's a stunning ground. We had a little bit of dampness, but then when the skies cleared and you could see the views for miles, and also have the castle flag fluttering in the wind, it was a truly lovely place to umpire cricket. Yeah,
Christine and I have been members for quite a long time, and it's really good what they've got up to there. There's no doubt about that. Now, how about looking at the TMS, the Test Match Special Press Box? How far can you remember back? Because one of the early commentators, John Arlott, lived on Alderney.
Did you?
And unfortunately, eventually died on Alderney. But he was around. Brian Johnston was around, and then of course,
I definitely remember Johners. Very much Johners, and Christopher Martin Jenkins and Blows, and Fred Truman. And I think unfortunately John Arlott, had he retired? I have heard his voice, because Daddy will play Test Match Special commentary by John Arlott in the car as we do journeys.
And of course,
you can buy famous cricket commentaries, which we do. I mean, I go back, Tony, to E.W. Swanton, of course, John Arlott, the Boyle, and Trevor Bailey, and the Alderman, Don Mosley. And I seem to have been listening to TMS all my life, and it would go on at 11 o'clock and stay on until 6 o'clock in the evening when they used to finish.
It's an institution.
When the last Test match was over and there was no more TMS for another 8-9 months, you felt there's a massive hole in your life. I remember that when I was a boy and when I was a young man. So TMS has been part of both of our lives for most of our lives.
Whenever I get to radio, the first channel I set is Test Match. Is now Radio 5 Sports Extra, to make sure I can get Test Match Special. Because the radio can't be in my house unless it's tuned to Radio 5 Sports Extra to get Test Match.
Yeah. And of course, one of the classics was Aggers and Johners, about both of them. And we still hear it and we still laugh at it. It's so funny.
I love that.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
What she hasn't told you is that she's one of the ladies who makes cakes and sends them into the TMS box. And the other thing she hasn't told you is she's known in the TMS box as the dancing umpire.
Oh, really?
That's my Twitter handle.
Well, this is something.
She's also a great dancer. She's very closely associated with Scottish country dancing. So she's known as that's her label. And yes, I think she makes chocolate brownies for the TMS. But
no chocolate brownies at the moment, presumably because of COVID. Haven't heard any mention of cakes this year.
I think the first time I heard mention of cake was on, I think, Friday, when I think they finally got a lemon drizzle cake into the part, past the COVID restrictions.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate in 2019. I volunteered to be what was known as a World Cup cricketer. And I was given the responsibility of helping the media team in the Oval, which meant, of course, I had to make sure that Test Match Special box had sufficient cake.
Right.
Whenever I'd hand over to somebody, I said, you've got to make sure that Test Match Special, this is the box, make sure they always have cake. If they don't have cake, life will,
grind to a halt.
Grind to a halt. So I did get to meet the team, and yes, so and then I was even more fortunate. I obviously did a good job with the cake delivery because I was asked to volunteer for the World Cup final in 2019 at Lord's, which meant that I sat at the back of the press box on that magical occasion of the super over when England won. So I think all protocol kind of erupted. We were just hugging, everybody was hugging each other if you were an England fan. It was such a fabulous moment to be there.
That must have been a great experience.
Oh, it's fabulous.
She seemed to have a magic touch, Tony, because that very same year, the first Test match Sandy and I'd been to with Elizabeth in about 10 years was at Headingley, when Ben Stokes and Jack Leach beat the Australians on that final, and we were there. It was an experience that nobody there will ever forget, and that we will certainly never forget. It was just
why is it that Headingley has these spectacular, the 1981 Botham and Willis?
Yeah, amazing.
You just,
I don't know. Yeah,
you couldn't make it up, could you?
No, and we were driving up when we were listening to Test Match Special, and we just kept hearing all the England wickets in the first innings just fall one after the other. And there was this rather sad tea time slot with Boycott and Vaughan and Cook, on the demise of English batting.
How terrible they were.
Yeah. And I there having organised, to have a big party with mum and dad, and we were going to watch the Test match. I was like, is there any other cricket going on in Yorkshire? There must be cricket going on in Yorkshire.
We were planning the day that wasn't going to have any cricket in it. And so it was just an amazing day. It's funny, one of those moments in life you never forget.
Why is it Yorkshire commentators are so dour? I'm thinking of Fred Truman. I'm thinking about Boycott. Michael Vaughan's a bit dour on occasions, isn't he? Yeah, is it something?
Tell my daughter to be very careful how she answers that.
Just say it's the air.
I have to admit, I've always found them very charming when I've met them.
Good answer.
Absolutely.
And I was really honoured when on the same day at Headingley, I was walking around the stadium, and I met Dickie Bird.
Oh, right.
Thrilling. I'm not sure what he quite thought about this small southern person coming up to going, I'm an umpire too. And I was wearing my Surrey shirt round Headingley. It's like, yes.
So, we got the photograph to prove it.
So,
he's a lovely man though, isn't he? I think that his dedication. Always remember when that pitch at Headingley got flooded.
Yes.
Burst pipe. And he said, not my fault, the pipes burst. Nothing to do with me. And, everyone was sort of giving him a lot of stick. But he was a great guy, in terms of his umpiring. There we are. Coming back to the 100,
yes.
I'm a bit confused with ins and outs. I thought they were called wickets.
They are still called wickets. That's one of the few things. There was a bit of controversy early on, but they have kept it in the playing conditions that they're called wickets.
Okay, so that's good. Because I thought that was oversimplification.
Yes, and I know everybody feels it a bit odd because they definitely aren't overs anymore. It's all about the balls.
Yeah.
You can even hear players going, I've bowled 2 overs. 10 balls. So it's going to be a bit of settling in. But otherwise, I think I personally find having to wave a white card around all quarters of the stadium after 5 balls a bit odd, and I personally hope that one might disappear by next season. But as somebody said to me, that's because Lizzy, cricket. For those of you people who don't know cricket, that signifies something. I was like, okay.
Do you see a situation then when the franchise is going to meet up and you're going to be able to put some points forward where you think that if it continues in 2022, you can finesse it?
I mean, I think there's always finessing going on with the playing conditions, and that will definitely take away the feedback from seeing how the umpires who are umpiring on the televised games felt about the conditions and what the players were saying. And then I know that a lot of the scheduling, they do have discussions, particularly with the stadiums that host the 100. What has already been said, and I think it's a really good thing, is they will continue the back-to-back, so women and men's games on the same day, which has been really successful in terms of widening the audience for women's cricket and making people aware of how good it is. So that's a real pleasing. What they do around where they get played, do you go and have a double header at Chelmsford or Hove to make sure they don't miss out, or how does that work? Maybe have more red ball there. I think it's still to be worked through the schedule.
Because it's all about being able to accommodate large crowds, isn't it? Oval, Lords, Old Trafford, Nottingham, Headingley, they're all fairly large arenas, but some of them aren't that big, are they?
No, and what's been interesting is that is also now to take that kind of filling a big stadium. So having 17,000 people watching the women's final on Saturday at Lords, is how do we carry that over for when England women are playing? So England women are playing currently, they'll be playing at Taunton, they'll be playing at Chelmsford, at Hove, at Northants. So we've got to hope we can fill those smaller venues for the women, for the England nationals. But it's a balancing act, because it's quite challenging at the moment, I think, particularly for the West Country. Because Welsh Fire being their nearest team isn't really working that well in terms of allegiances, as they've got to kind of think about actually how do you reach the parts of the country that don't really have a franchise team near them at the moment, to kind of keep building that this is a game for everybody.
Yeah. We'll have to have a further look at it. Now, the other thing I wanted to just very briefly talk about is cricket for the blind. And the primary club. I think I've got a primary club tie. I don't know quite how I got it. Obviously, I'm a very easy person to get out. But that's done an awful lot, hasn't it, for cricketers? Yeah,
I mean, there is the blind cricket of England and Wales, and they now have international blind cricket games, both involving men and women's international teams. There also is a national competition for blind cricket, and those teams are mixed and they come all over. And I've actually umpired a number of blind cricket games this season, including a warm-up game for the England women. It's a different, it's same six balls and over, but the ball is different. So the ball has got is for regional games, it's a slightly bigger ball, and it's got ball bearings that make a noise. And it's not a hard ball, but for international cricket, it's a small hard ball with ball bearings. It's absolutely awe-inspiring to watch, to see people who are completely blind coming in and hitting shots and bowling. It is, being the close catches. It is absolutely amazing, and they're all fabulous people who play it. Really.
Long may it go on. Finally, just like to mention cricket as a instrument of social cohesion. At Arundel, as you probably know, they have a lot of children down on a regular basis who come from, backgrounds where perhaps the family haven't got any money, or there's been other problems, and deprived children really get a chance to have a day out at Arundel and see a bit of cricket, get involved. That's got to be good, hasn't it?
It's fabulous. There's also, Chance for Shine has been doing an amazing work about getting cricket, more and more people cricket from different backgrounds. And the most, one I'm very proud of at the moment, which has been started by Ebony Rain from Brent, had its first home at part of the Surrey, is the ACE programme, which is about bringing African Caribbean engagement back into cricket. Daddy was talking about the one that happened in the summer of 1976. And unfortunately, we've not seen as many people from African Caribbean communities playing cricket and coming through into professional ranks in recent years. And the ACE programme is about bringing more and more communities, finding that really, in many cases, finding the untapped talent there and making sure that this is a game for all, no matter where you come from. I was also, what was wonderful about the Women's 100 was you also do see now, there are So Jasmine Arwin Nazneen, who was umpiring, was the first British Muslim woman to umpire a professional cricket game. And there's, the cricketer who was playing for the Birmingham Phoenix in her hijab is the first, it's also making sure that this is a game for everybody, no matter background. And also I think the great thing about cricket is no matter also whether you are blind, whether you're deaf, whether there's also cricket for those with physical disabilities, learning disabilities of all types. There's a cricket for everybody, and the Lord and Lady Taverners charities as well do a lot of work in that area to make sure that cricket goes out and is be able to be played by everybody.
Lizzy, it's been a great pleasure to have a chat with you. And, I'm so proud that I know the prof who's got a daughter that's an umpire.
I am so proud of my daughter. But you've heard everything, so I'm just so proud of her.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant.
One of the many proud moments, I can't play, I'm hopeless at cricket, but I love the game. Yeah. And I never thought I'd see the name Conder on the scoreboard at Lords. What Lizzy hasn't told you, she was the first the first women ever to umpire at Lords.
A T20 on the main pitch.
Yeah. T20 on the main pitch.
That's incredible.
Her name was up on the main scoreboard at Lords as the umpire. So although I never quite managed to get there as a player, the name Conder was there, but it was E.J. Conder, not R. Conder. So I'm incredibly proud of her. Yeah.
Thanks ever so, both of you. Real pleasure to have a chat, and take care.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Good to speak to you.
Cheers.
Cheers.